Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in on today's tip. Today's best home buying tip, tip number 17, 3 things you must verify. 3 things you must verify. You see, now let's just think this through, the process that we've got so far, okay? You found your dream home. It's beautiful, man. Whew, can't wait to move in. The pool's great. The kids are going to love it, right? Whatever your thing is, right? When you think about it, you've made an offer. You've increased your earnest money because you want to try and get this deal, right? You've written a letter, right? Some kryptonite to make sure the seller knows how serious you are. And I really appreciate somebody earlier in a previous video, I think it's my CVD, my CVID, I believe was the name, who pointed out that she had done that with her clients about a baby and a child and some dogs, I believe. And it was very helpful for them to write that letter and to get that deal. So here we are, got the deal, time to enter into the inspection period, right? So here's the problem. There's 3 things that I commonly see home buyers overlook, okay? Now, if you're using a realtor, the realtor should bring these things up to you, okay? But if they don't be afraid, they will eventually, and if they don't, then bring it up to them when you see it here. But here's the thing. 3 things that I typically see home buyers forget or neglect to look at when they're buying a home during their inspection period that can make significant differences in your negotiation power as well as overall desirability of the property. So here's the thing. Tell me if any of these apply to you. Point number 1, verify the title and insurance or the insurability of the property, right? Now, with your agent, you want to be sure that you want to check the title insurance, exceptions to the Schedule B, any liens or easements. These are all going to be noticed from the title company when you open up escrow and begin the inspection period. The escrow company is going to send you the title report, the insurance report, and basically you'll want to review this to see if there's any kind of exceptions, things that aren't covered under the title insurance, and make sure you know about that. The other thing you want to do is check for previous insurance claims, right? Many times the seller will provide a comprehensive loss underwriting exchange report, or otherwise known as a CLUE report, right? This report is from a national insurance underwriting exchange, again, the comprehensive loss underwriting exchange. And basically what they do is they go ahead and check to see if there was any kind of claims against that property for mold or fire or water damage, flooding, any kind of natural disaster, whatever kind of claims there were against that property. Here's why this is important to you. It's important because you want to make sure that you can get insurance on that when you close. I mean, holy cow, could you imagine the utter fright that people would have if you bought $1 million property only to discover at the point of closing you could not activate your insurance because they had previous mold infestation. Whoo, boy, imagine the trouble that could happen. Well, that trouble actually happened in California, and that's why we have this. So make sure you check that. Tip number 2, right? Or the second thing to check, right? Now, trust me, you want to hang in for tip number 3, because tip number 3, I've saved the best for last. It's the money maker. Tip number 2, verify the utilities, right? Now, look, this seems small. It seems like a dumb thing, okay? But trust me, I've seen a lot of issues come up where people can actually find themselves sideways in a transaction over things that appeared to be one way, but were yet another. For example, right? Things like it appears to have a sewer connection, when in reality, it's actually on a septic system because that side of the street never got connected to the sewer and that side of the street over there did, right? Another one, in and out of the sticks. When you think about it, if you're living out in the middle of nowhere, you want to make sure that you have active ingress and egress to your property. I mean, what if you're out in the middle of nowhere and you have a heart attack or you break your leg or whatever, and the ambulance needs to come in and get to you. If they can't traverse the wash, if they can't get through the ravine, if they can't get through the forest to get to grandma's house because the ingress and egress is all covered up, well, that's going to be a problem. You'll definitely want to check that out. You'll want to double check the trash, the sewer, the electric, the internet, right? Make sure it has internet connections because sometimes in these older places, they may not, right? I also wrote down tight corners, right? Tight corners for EMS. When you think about it, sometimes if you got a fire truck, there's a particular subdivision here in Tucson that's like this. The corners are too tight, right, for a standard fire truck to make it around. So if you've got a house way back here that's on fire, it's going to be difficult for them to come over there and put you out. Those are things you want to know about. Okay, money-making time. Tip number 3, guys, you've been hanging in there for it. I appreciate it. Tip number 3, external property factors. External property factors. Now, here's where you as a buyer can make a buck. Right? Now, earlier you heard me talk about use the inspection period and get all the inspections you can, right? To get all the free inspections, get the roof inspected, get a home inspector, get, the whatever, right? But here's some other things you may or may not have thought about, right? Check to see if it's in a WRF zone. Make sure if it's the water quality zone set up by the federal government, the Superfund site. Make sure that your kids aren't drinking lead water or PCBs, right? Oil dumps, right? Make sure that there's no environmental factors around your property that's going to affect your ability to resale it later. The other thing is certainly any proposed road changes, right? Here in Tucson, there was a huge road change. Grant Road expanded for a while. And for many, many years, Grant Road, all up and down had been expanded, and there's been a lot of construction, and it's affected the values on both sides of the street. People have lost properties because of the easements, and there's a whole lot of other factors that can go into that. So especially if you're virtually wholesaling, I know a lot of people like to try and do that these days. If you're doing that, you'll definitely want to check that out, right? Here's something else to think about. Okay, I'm going to say this in the kindest way possible. All right, you'll want to check the sex offender registry for your area. Okay. Now, here's the thing. I recognize that sex offender registries are not always updated. Okay, but if it's important to you and you've got a child, all right, and it's important to you to know what the sex offenders are around you, then I would recommend you check the sex offender registry. And if it's important to you, right? If it's important to you, and I'm not an attorney, I can't give you advice, okay? But what I have seen other people do is if, let's say it was important to me, and my kids are all grown, but let's say if I had a young kid and I had a sex offender nearby and I was, concerned about that, I legitimately could bring that up in my inspection period. I could say, hey, gosh, at the time when I'm asking for repairs or something, I could say, gosh, I discovered there's a sex offender that lives down the street. That concerns me a little bit. That's all you got to say. Many times, people will find a way to make you feel more comfortable about it. And if it's not something that's overly important to you, it is something that you can use as a negotiation item. Now, it's true, without getting into a long discussion about it, it's true that the disclosure issues about sex offenders vary from state to state. But one thing is certainly true. If you have a listed property, let's say I'm the listing agent, and you were the home buyer, and you came to my property, and you said, gosh, I like the house, but it's got a sex offender who lives 2 doors down, and blah, 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 blah. The seller's going to have to make a choice, right? They could say, well, gosh, that's the way it is. They don't have to disclose that. That's the law here. And you can take it or choose it, take it or leave it. That's up to you. Or they could choose to, we can take a couple grand off the price or whatever, right? If you walk away, however, if you back out of that deal, for me as a realtor, and realtors who are watching this can appreciate the challenge that this puts me in professionally now, right? Because as a realtor in the state of Arizona, I don't have to tell you if there's a sex offender in the home, in the area. I just have to tell you, well, here's the source to go look for it, right? But if my home went pending on the MLS, and again, I know this is a little bit further than maybe I might take a regular home buying class, but if you're listening this far, then this will help you, right? If you think it through, from my perspective as an agent, if I put it on the MLS as an active property, you come along, you buy it, I take it off the MLS, I put it as active, contingent, or pending on the multiple listing, so it's no longer getting shown, right? You're doing your inspections, you wait how many of your inspection days are up. And then at the end of your inspection period, right before the end, you say, hey, look, I found this sex offender. Now I got a choice with my seller. My seller is going to have to either address it with you or not address it with you. That's between y'all. It's not between me and you. It's between them, you and them, right? But if you guys fail to come to some sort of agreement and I have to put the home back on the market, what does that look like? Because now when it comes back on the market, every other agent is going to see that in the history of the multiple listing service. And they're going to say, I noticed that the property was on the market for X amount of days and then you got a contract and then I noticed it went back off and back on the market. What happened? Now, I'm not obligated to disclose that there was a sex offender in the area. And if the agent asks, it's going to put me in a little bit of an unusual position because on the one hand, how do you answer that as an agent? Now, I know how to answer that, but most agents don't. And that is where you can win. This tip I hope was helpful. If it was, I'm not so sure you'd want to share this one. I might get in trouble for this. Tell me what you thought in the comments below. I'd love to hear it. As always, I hope you have a powerful sales day. Bye-bye.